Okay,
I'm just gonna watch the first little bit, and then I'll start talking.
All better. For now. Get in here.
The objective is lost.
Honestly, it's not bad, but there's like some little things here. And some, honestly, a little less than little.
All better.
So, that right there was a wasted shift. You're down like 30 HP. You could have waited a little bit longer. You do end up taking some damage from the Kree. The tail end of your shift heals up some of that, but like... I get that it's not the biggest thing, but you kind of want to wait to get a little bit more value out of your shift. It's your only self-heal. Which isn't to say, like, hold on to it when you need to use it, but, like, don't just waste it out because you took, like, a tiny bit of chip either when you're, like, around cover and perfectly safe. And then here you put some shots into the Kree. It's great. Reload around the corner. I love that. And then here, you turn away from the Kree, but you stay in his line of sight. And you basically have two choices here. Either you keep looking at the Kree and try to continue dueling him when he peeks again. Not necessarily what I'd recommend, but, you know, if you think he's going to peek again immediately, maybe you do. Or you do what you do in a second, which is drop and come to this corner, where he can't do shit to you without, like, coming way over here. Yeah? And that puts you in a knife-safe spot, and you can go back to doing what you're doing. And then here, I don't mind the lamp. You gotta save your Zarya. And, like, the heals are fine. The thing is with BAP, and, like, this is easier said than done. This tends to break people's brains. But for every right click, you can do a single left click, and it will not slow your right clicks down at all. Doesn't matter that these people are critical, you can't heal them any faster than that anyway. And that one shot in between each right click is just free damage that you're putting out to pressure back whoever is hurting your team in the first place. Think of it like proactive healing. If you can get the enemy to back off, that's less that you have to heal. And as BAP, you don't have to choose between damage and healing. You can be doing both at the same time. Going right click, left click, left click, can be kind of hard to do while, like, tracking everything else that you need to track. It's a muscle memory thing that you really want to, like, get in there when you can. But, so, like, right here, you put some shots into the Diva, maybe the Brig. And, like, it doesn't make the biggest difference, but it builds up a little bit more ult charge for you, and it might make the difference for your teammates, yeah? And then there you walked onto point. You just didn't really need to do that. What you wanted to do instead was either stay where you were or look to wrap around this side if you have time. I don't know that you really had time to get here. But you got a tank on point. The point, generally speaking, is a death trap. On just about any map in the game, it's where people go to die. And so you as a support never, basically ever want to touch this point. It's much, much better for you to try to keep alive, like, whichever tank or DPS comes to touch, yeah? I learned that the way to win games on support is good positioning, so try that. Yeah, I see streamers do that right-click, left-click thing. Yeah, so, again, muscle memory, and, like, in this elo, other things are more important, but as you climb, that multitasking is going to become more and more required to get enough value out of BAP. So I would recommend practicing the muscle memory now, but if it's coming at the cost of other things, like when you're in a game, let it drop. Those other things are probably more important. Yeah? But there's two basic patterns that you can be looking for. One is right click, left click, right click, left click, and the other is left, left, right, left, left, right. And the reason you do them in that order is so you heal 70 direct, 50 splash. So if you're prioritizing healing, if like you're worried about this Sigma or whatever, you want to aim that right click so it lands direct and does more healing. But then that left click is just free damage. So you flick it out into a shield or a tank or whatever's in front of you. Like if you can hit a squishy, great, but like it's free damage. You're just sending it out and then going back to your priority, which is healing. Alternately, if you want to prioritize damage, like your team's taking some chip, but like honestly, these guys are fine, so I'm gonna like kill things instead, then you want to aim those left clicks, make sure that damage counts, and you can do 2 left clicks and only slow down your right clicks a tiny bit. So you go left click, and then you flick out the grenade so you get some splash heals on your team, keep them topped up, left click, right click, left click, right click. Yeah? One thing that really helps with this, so you got a couple of options with that positioning. Enemy team, your team, you can position right behind your team, and then you don't really have to change your aim. This can be okay if all you really care, or if what you think is most important in that moment is healing, and like any damage is just like free spam or poke, because you don't have to change your aim, and you just, you know, right click, left click, left click through everyone. I like this for walking in, when you're like approaching a point, approaching the enemy team to attack. You're throwing out spam damage, or with your team, you're healing them up. It's great. If you split just a tiny bit, you're still behind your team, but you're offset just a little bit, well, now you can see all of the enemy team and all of your team, and you have to change your aim. You have to go from left to right, but it's a pretty narrow angle, so it's not that hard, and you can see the enemy, and you can choose targets now. And this is a lot better if you want to prioritize your DPS, or be able to choose and do both, DPS or heal from right here. Yeah? Highly recommend looking for those offset behind positions and then working on that muscle memory. But like I said, don't let it come at the cost of other shit, because it's not really important yet. When you're in plat pushing into diamond, it's going to start mattering. Okay. Die on point, unlucky, but team wins. Yay. Papa Cheese is 1 HP in a dream. My support is really aggressive, so I've gotten really good at hitting shots on the enemy and making sure they die. So, whether to heal or do damage is the sort of thing that you really have to feel out, but heal botting is not the most optimal strategy. I'm in a group with all but the tanks? Okay, cool. But yeah, heal botting isn't an optimal strategy. Generally speaking, most supports do a better job of healing than they do of damage. Zen being an obvious exception. BAP is kind of equal, but you get the idea. So healing, there's a couple of factors. One, the healing tends to be easier to land, more consistent. You're building ult charge, you're getting more consistent value. And like your DPS and your tanks probably do more damage than you, so keeping them alive will result in more damage, hopefully. On the other hand, you as a support cannot out-heal the amount of damage in this game. If there's focus fire coming in, or hell, just like most of the DPS in the game at their optimal ranges or whatever, you cannot out-heal it. So it's not Like, all you're doing is buying that player time to maybe win the duel, which can be okay. But if you put damage into them, you can get them to back off. You could kill them yourself. You can get them low enough that it's easier for your teammate to win the duel. And by doing any of those things, that enemy player outputs less damage, which is less that you need to heal. It is proactive healing. Really important concept. Kind of difficult to suss out when you should be shooting, when you should be healing. But really what you should be thinking, with BAP, you should be trying to do both at the same time. But really it's first off, who has a better chance of winning this duel? Like, if it's a Rhine swinging into a Grav, maybe you keep your Rhine alive because he's doing some fucking work, yeah? But if it's a half-health Widow about to kill, you know, your 1 HP Reaper who's halfway across the map, you kill her. You can't out-heal that, yeah? You can out-heal Focus Fire, or, like, if a lot of damage is coming in. Anyway, all that to say, you're heal-botting a little bit too much. And you need to look for ways to output more damage in between the healing. The goal here isn't to... In an ideal world, you're not swapping between playstyles. You're not, I'm going to go do damage, and then I'm going to go back to healing, and then I'm going to go do damage. It's finding positions where you can do both, where you can swap between either one on the fly as you desire it, without having to, like, rotate to somewhere else. Yeah. And then, like, if you think your folks are fine and they're not going to die, you should be doing damage. If you start getting worried about how much damage they're taking, or might be taking in the future, then you heal them up. Hey, Gen. So, kind of a wasted lamp, unfortunate. It'd be nice to have that right now. So you tunneled on breaking the mines, which meant you had to get your lamp out to keep your Zariel alive because she had taken so much damage at that point. It was just an awareness thing. Like, the mines don't really matter, and it's better to take a look around and see what's going on everywhere else before you do something like that doesn't really matter that much. Yeah? Other things to know. You have an Ana, which means the two of you have a shit ton of healing, and it means that one or both of you has to be looking for more offensive opportunities, right? Like, you don't need this much healing, but both of you can do real damage. So, like, if you see that your Ana is off on the flanks trying to frag, maybe you have to hang back and heal more. But since it looks like she's hanging out with the tanks and trying to heal them and keep them alive, it's not that you shouldn't heal. You should still keep an eye on people, but this flank right now is an excellent play. It's exactly the sort of thing you should be doing. You should be looking for opportunities to output damage and frag, and off-angle pressure like this can be really good for your team to walk in. But just to understand, part of why it's good is because you have an Ana with your tanks. They don't need you. If this was a Lucio over here, or like a, Brig, Mercy, that sort of thing, then this could be a very bad play that you're making, unless you really trust your aim and think you're about to frag 3 people with your window or something. Get him. Jump up, jump up. Thanks. Get him. Okay, you're missing the Kree. Good kill there, though, but... yeah.
Let them out.
So, you kind of did it with this window, where, like, you have this little bit of edge that you can shoot over. But, whenever possible, try to place it so it crosses multiple sight lines. So, instead of here, if you placed it, like, here, then you can use, like, the corner of it to shoot a much wider area. Hell, if you get it like here sort of thing, then you have a little bit of it to shoot completely past this wall, as well as onto the point. They have nowhere to hide from the window anymore. I try to get a 50-50 ratio of heals and damage nowadays. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily look for a number like 50-50. My goal, and recognizing that this will change game to game, even moment to moment, my goal is to output the most damage I can without letting anyone that I can safely heal die. And I say anyone that I can safely heal because my life matters more. I am not going to int to go save somebody who's like off in a terrible place. Like, that's on them. But if my tanks are where they should be, my people are where they should be, and I'm where I should be, then all I care about is they haven't died yet. If I can keep them from dying, keep them from having to back up maybe, which is a slightly different thing, then otherwise I'm just trying to put out as much damage as I can. Some games I'm holding down M1, some games I'm holding down M2. Some games it's a little bit more in the middle. But it's, I think, the intention that matters more. Okay.
Is it hot in here or is it just me?
Park, you explained why you likes Ana Bap so much. If Ana heals the tanks, then Bap can play really aggressive. Yeah. And like, you do some legit damage. Wasted lamp. You could kind of see that everyone was safe. What the hell is a brig doing there?
How about a little
Yeah. So again, you didn't need to be there. You just needed to be trying to keep your tanks alive while they were there. So your priorities change depending on which support you're playing. But for BAP and Ana both, generally speaking, your priority is your tanks. So you keep your tanks alive, you keep your other support alive. You do as much damage as you can, and then you keep your DPS alive if you can on top of all that other shit. Sorry, DPS, like, it's not that you shouldn't get heals, it's that BAP has other priorities. Ana has other priorities. If they can put a shot into you, they absolutely should and will, but they're not going to follow you around, they have to follow the tanks around. Which is why you want somebody like, say, a Mercy to pocket the DPS, or a Brig to pack them, that sort of thing. But I digress.
It's not over yet.
Yeah, just having that, like, priority of, I'm going to keep the tanks alive, and I'm going to do as much damage as I can beyond that. And then, like, anything else you do is kind of gravy. I mentioned this earlier, but, like, your shift is your only self-heal. It does 150 over 5 seconds to you, but it only does 75 over 5 seconds for your team. 15 a second. There are edge cases where that 15 a second makes the difference, but they're rare, and it's usually far better to save it for yourself and just put another right-click into your teammate. Like, right-click does 70 versus 75. Like, you could have just healed this guy up just as fast, just as easy. And then you have your shift for yourself later if you need it. This idiot laughing right now always tells me I try and save too many lives. I should stay back, let them die, and heal everyone else. It's a hard one for supports, and it's also the sort of thing that'll get you flamed sometimes by people that don't really get that you will win more fights letting them die and doing your job really well because you kept your good positioning than you will keeping them alive and then dying for it yourself, or, you know, just scrambling to do your job because now you're in some terrible place because you followed them. I do not remember that game on Iron Balls. Which one? right there, that was a good example. This Junkrat right here,
Activating the barrier.
you can kill him before he does any damage, before he gets through the bubble to damage your Kree, but you cannot heal enough to keep your Kree alive through the Junkrat damage if he gets that one nade off. So right there was at the exact moment where you don't heal your critical Kree, you shoot the Junkrat instead. Yeah? That one's a pretty obvious one. Sometimes they're not always going to be that clear cut, and sometimes you're not going to know until after the fact. But think about it. Keep it in your brain, and you'll get better at it over time. Just, you know, make note of, well, fuck, healing didn't work, I clearly needed to do more damage there. Or, well, I tunneled on damage and I let some people die, I should have healed them some more. Like, find your focus there, or find your balance.
Bad guys.
I am going to watch this round in just a second, chat. My coffee just got here. Be right back. In round 2. Okay. Back up a little bit and then watch this while I caffeinate. Yeah, I ran out of coffee, so I just ordered like fancy coffee delivered.
Got you good as new.
Real quick, I'm going to give you some map-specific knowledge. We'll look at how this all plays out in a moment and, like, what you could have done with the hand you were dealt. But before we get into that, I just want to, like, give you a rundown of the ideals, yeah? It's not always going to happen. Ranked is a shit show, but knowing what's best means you'll more often be able to make it happen, yeah? Not Starbucks Zeta, actually, Diesel Cafe down the street from me. Anyway, so, this point, like most points in the game, is a low ground with no cover, completely surroundable by high grounds with cover. And, like, this is a low ground, but it's cover too. But basically, whoever... Like, this point is a shooting gallery. It's called a kill box for a reason. Anyone who comes here to die. If you as a team, and I know it's ranked, and I know it's low elo also, so, like, who knows? But if you can get your team to not touch the point, and instead take up these positions, and let the enemy team walk their dumbasses onto the point, you get to shoot them for free while they stand there unable to do crap about it. Let them contest the point. Who cares? Even if they flip it, you'll kill them, and then you'll flip it right back. So in higher elo, the first fight usually takes place on this bridge. They're fighting over this. People roll out, they go out this side, they come to here, because this is the high ground with view of the point. Whoever controls this bridge probably controls this point. It's going to be very, very difficult to get this point if the enemy team has the bridge. So, you as BAP, again, you can't control your team. Maybe you can suggest it in comms, but... And you're a 4-stack, so you can get, like, some people to come with you on this for sure. But either way, you coming over here, the famous on a spot because you got the mini, can be great. And then since you have your hog here, it's safe for you to push up further. And, like, look at this. You could just be fragging like hell, heal your Kree, kill that ball. You got a Mega plus your self-heal plus your Hog if anyone comes to get you. And then if you win the point, you have this corner to play on. Unless, you guys push up to here. But yeah. Basically every point in the game, and cart path all of it, think about the high grounds that surround it, and do your best to take and control those. Especially as BAP, because you have your jump, you can get up there super easy. They're incredibly powerful. In your ELO, everyone's ignoring them, so, it's just free power. You don't even have to really particularly fight for it, usually. And whoever controls those high grounds wins. Almost every time. Especially if you get your team with you, you just won't lose a game anymore for a good long while.
The objective
Yeah, so here you're kind of off on your own. Don't get me wrong, you're doing some shit because that Junkrat completely ignored you. So, credit where it's due, you're fragging. And, don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking the fact that you're fragging at all. Good job fragging. But, coming this way meant that, you had a lot of downtime where you had no targets and you couldn't help your team or do anything else really. And then when you came here, you should have died. They really should have killed you. You have no real escape, you have no help, and Junkrat can one-shot you with his combo. Never mind there was a Moira right there, and the ball, and all that. You got away with this because the enemy team has no awareness. That is something that is true in Silver. It is less true in Gold, and it more or less stops being true in Plat. Plat players have plenty of other problems, but usually the BAP standing right next to them shooting them in the back isn't one of them anymore. They notice that shit, and they'll just turn around and kill you. So, try to be a little bit smarter with these flanks. Which isn't to say never flank, because like I said, you're fragging, and that's great. I just feel like you could have done this in a way that wouldn't have gotten you killed in a higher ELO, and thus this would continue to be a good play, if that makes sense. And then here you kind of come out into open space, which is just a huge risk. You really want to, stick to cover, stick to a corner as best you can. You don't need to be here on the point. Neither does your Ana, but... Yeah, you did the melee.
Is it hot in here or is it just...
Oh yeah. I guess that's the thing. You're doing some shit here. You really are. It's just in a higher ELO, you wouldn't be able to do this solely based on where you're standing. You wouldn't be getting as much value because you would be dead instead. So again, we'd be looking to cross to a high ground as soon as possible, and not just a high ground, but kind of split from your team a little bit. If you're right here, you're with your Hog. You're not, entirely alone. Your Ana can heal you, she can see you, but you can see everything that's going on. You guys can help each other out. You can help them, they can help you. And the difference really between here and here is, A, you have cover. B, you can more easily see what's going on without having to spin around in a circle. And, the less you have to change your view, the easier it is to land the shot. The more you have to turn, the more likely it is you're going to miss. Oh, there was one other thing. Had another thing. Anyway, it'll come back. I've spent some time in Plat, and as a main tank, I believe my supports have fewer senses than Alan Keller. Hey, I was probably feed anyway. Less in amount of games against Sombras recently. Yeah, so I don't want to like claim that they have the same awareness as like a GM or as much awareness as would be ideal, but I feel like in a plat game, if you were to drop like you did here and try to shoot 3 people, you wouldn't kill 2 of them before they turned around to look at you and shot back. However, if you're... Oh, right, now I remember the other thing. The other reason you don't want to be here but would rather be here, this is where the enemy team is shooting. All of their fire is concentrated on your front line, generally speaking, so you being on the front line is just asking to get hit with random spam. If you're over here, human psychology is such that unless they're thinking about it, oh shit, I should go on the supports, they're going to shoot the first thing they see, which is going to be your front line. They're going to shoot the biggest threat, the thing that's in their face, which is your front line. So if you're over here, they're not shooting you, they're shooting your tanks. Which isn't to say it's impossible that they can't come and shoot you, and in higher elos, they know to do that and they will. But that's like a future problem, and again, like I said, you got your hog right here, so it's not even a now problem. If I see Bap not behind a shield, I'd foreseen Immor and aggressing for the kill like a rabid animal. Oh yeah, like, the Lucio main, one of my absolute favorite plays against the Bap is when I see them anywhere out of position, I just dive on them until they use lamp, and then I leave. Run at them, amp speed, shoot them a couple of times, turn around and leave as soon as they drop Immor, and go back to your team. Done. Amp's a 12-second cooldown, and not as powerful as Immortality anyway. Immor's 25 seconds. That's like a massive value. And then since I'm back with my team, they're not even like losing the value of their Lucio for more than a few seconds. But I digress. Don't be that Bap. When I'm simple, I'd be like, hey, don't go out of my line of sight, and then they go out of my line of sight. The only thing that plats are aware of is that they take damage.
Barrier's about to break.
Plats, in my observation, and this is a general thing, are very observant and generally fairly aware of the enemy, and almost entirely unaware of their own team. Mild exception for supports, who will probably be slightly more aware of at least one person they're supposed to be healing. But like, Plat Annas will hyper-focus on healing the Rhine and leave your diva to die all goddamn day because they're just not aware of what your diva's doing. They're not paying attention to their own team. But that's like a skill that you really don't start seeing until like High Masters low GM, sadly. Except for like tanks. Tanks tend to get a little bit more aware of their own team because it's hard to get past Plat without being aware that your team is ready to engage with you. Okay. I'm gonna hold on a Mercy and I don't heal enough. IMO Mercy's heal way too much. My kingdom for a Mercy that hard pockets a DPS. Then I can lock Ana or Bap, and my job is easy. I just have to pocket the tanks. How do you manage DPS versus heals as Ana or as Bap? Yeah, you gotta reset. Okay. Yeah, you just stayed too long. Had to get out. Unlucky. I'm gonna pause and then answer this question. I think in this game, by the way, I had about 12k heals and damage both at the end. That's really not bad for a control point game. Like, even if it looks like you guys go all 3 points. Like I said, it's not your output right now that is the problem. The problem is more than a couple hundred SR above this elo, and you won't be getting nearly as much output because you'll be dead instead. So like, I love the output on BAP. You're doing a lot of heals and a lot of damage. There's some optimizations here and there, like, to output even more, but overall, you're doing plenty for this elo. And it is fully just the fact that where you're standing is going to get you killed, and where you're standing is going to force you or your team to have to waste resources sooner than they want, and it's going to make it harder for you to track everything that's going on. And if you solve those 3 things, then you as an individual aren't going to get punished for all of this damage output nearly as often, nearly as easily. You'll be able to, like, climb a good fair bit without having to improve much else, if that makes sense. One good thing I was told for Ana was 2/3 shots for the enemy, the rest for your team. I don't really like numbers like that necessarily. I say this for Ana. First off, you want to be going for anti-nades as much as you can. If you absolutely have to heal with your nade, then, you do it. You don't let yourself or other people die, but your goal is to anti the enemy as often as possible when they engage. Or your team engages on that. Beyond that, if it is early and you're walking up and it's the poke phase and you know the poke phase isn't about to end, then keep people alive and beyond that, do damage. If the engagement is about to start, you need to have your ammo. Ana's reload is one of the most painful things in this goddamn game. When you're hard pocketing somebody and you run out of ammo, that's basically 2 seconds that they're not getting any heals. That hurts. It really does. So the last thing you want is to be doing damage. Your whole team's fine. They don't need any healing. You're doing damage. Bop, bop, bop. Plinking away. And then suddenly a bunch of damage comes in and you gotta heal. And you got 1 shot left in the clip. And now you gotta reload. You don't want that. So my guideline for the lower elos is if you have fewer than 6 shots in your clip, then you either need to be healing with them or you need to reload before you start doing some damage. If you don't have time to get a reload in, then you need to be healing rather than shooting. Exceptions to that rule, if they're 1 HP, if they're diving you, whatever. But I say this for low elo because higher elo, you should be able to feel it out a little bit better than that. You'll have a better sense of when you're going to need to have ammo to heal your team. And so you'll be able to reload before that happens, so you have all or most of your clip. But the big takeaway here is, you don't want to be reloading as the engagement is starting. You want to reload just before the engagement. And then that way you have ammo to heal your team. In addition to do damage.
Nanoboots administered.
Can't heal fall damage, but I appreciate the attempt. You got a bunch of triple criticals. And then they're target prioritization, you really want to get that free, because he's half health and he can also kill you. Yeah, shoot the squishies here. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what I'm seeing here is a crutch. You don't really trust your aim, it's burst fire, it's weird, so you're shooting the tanks because it's reliable. You hit more of those shots than you do trying to hit these squishies. That's what it looked like to me. Regardless, don't. You really want to prioritize the important targets. Even if you as an individual are going to miss more, that's not really a good enough reason to shoot at the ball versus the half-health Kree. Go for the Kree. It's much more important that you get this kill, and maybe teammates will continue to help and contribute damage as well. I shot Roadhog because I thought for some reason mine might live. I don't know what I was doing for ball. Okay. Yeah, it's something I've kind of noticed throughout here, is you'll often miss a squishy that's low that you can kill. And for like a variety of reasons, so it might just be a general awareness thing, but your ranged hit scan. It's a little bit hard to aim your shots without like a bunch of practice in it, but like your ranged hit scan, you can actually clean up kills better than a lot of other heroes in the game, and better than most supports. So keeping an eye open for a DPS or a support, some kind of squishy that's 1 HP, and then just going, oh shit, and 1 or 2 tapping them and finishing that off, that's a pretty reliable carry play for you. Like, that's just massive. Anytime you can get a pick like that without sacrificing what else you're doing. And when they're low like this, you don't have to, like, tunnel on the kill. It's not like you're going to be here for half a clip putting shots into them. You know? 1 or 2 left clicks, and then you go back to doing what you're doing. If that gets a kill, that's huge. And there's been, I would say, at least 3, maybe 4 opportunities like that just in this game, where you personally could have very easily gotten a pick and then just kept doing what you were doing. Oh, hey, Freak Show. I'm doing good. How are you? Did I just fall on the bed and sleep? Kinda, yeah. I was like, I'm just gonna lay down and close my eyes for a bit. Yeah, so there, like, you really want to put some more heals into your team. You're kind of tunneling on the damage here. Hog just jumped off. Aw.
I'm on fire.
Lost 300 SR yesterday? Oh no. Oh, so he got hooked, but he landed on the ledge, and then he backed up and jumped off. Not that it's that important, but like... Oh, he might have gotten punched off. Because your melee does a minor boot, if you did not know.
All better. Now.
So, like, right there, could have killed your Ana. You're also missing a lot of opportunities to use your boots. Oops, wrong button. So, like, your Ana was low here, and you backed up to cover, which backing up to cover wasn't wrong, but you had time to put a right click into her before, or as you came around, and then additionally, you charge your boots and you jump, and you heal her up here, and you stand on this thing. Boom. If you got to drop behind it, you can. You want to drop on this side, you can. It gives you options, as well as cover. High grounds are one of the most shockingly overlooked things up until, like, Diamond Masters. It blows my mind. People just don't even think about it. Or they think my team's not going there, so I shouldn't. But especially as a support, and especially as BAP, every high ground you can find, all the goddamn time forever. Like, the exceptions to that are so rare, I don't even feel bad telling you to never, ever, ever be on not a high ground ever again in your life. You'll win more games than you'll lose because of that strat, for sure. Saw the CarQ video about knockback? I didn't, actually. One of my favorite things to do is melee people before they jump off to reset such value. Yeah, because you get environmental kills, you get credit for however much health they had left. So you knock a 600 HP Roadhog off the map with a 25 damage boop from Lucio, you get 600 HP worth of ult charge. So good. But yeah, I've seen Tracers dive off a map to melee and then recall back up just so they could get their pulse bomb faster because they get the ult charge for the environmental kill from that melee. Anyway. Okay.
Activating the barrier. Barriers unstable.
I cast this forth.
It's not my time. Step right up.
You get out of Tracer?
5, 4, 3.
I've done it on Lucio, which is... I'm not sure if it's as ballsy as it feels, but, like, if you miss the wall, you just jumped off the map yourself.
1. Round 3.
Do that on Winston when you have Primal, like when it ends.
Enemy contact.
I saw a funny clip of a brig. So, Ball is hooked off the side of the map trying to hide, and the brig sees him, jumps off the map, and shield bashes mid-air to stun the Ball so they both die. Because, like, a respawn advantage, but it gives the brig rally. Gives her hella ult charge. I was always on D.Va, but I just fly into them, not melee. I should do that on D.Va, but I am still trying to break a really, really bad mechanical habit, which is whenever I fly into anyone, I cancel my fucking boosters with melee. Like, it's... the plan, in my head, will be to, like... God damn it. Overwatch just crashed. Sorry, let me get that back up. But, like, my plan will be to, fly through the enemy and then back to my team, back to the high ground, and be fine. And I'll fly into them, and the second I get to the first person, I hit melee, and then I'm just there, feeding my fucking mech into the entire enemy team. It's low-key driving me nuts, and I can just see myself jumping off the map, and meleeing, and then being like, fuck. Okay, shit. That was... Nepal? Oh, probably not this time. This was a longer game.
Ready for battle.
You can double melee boosters with D.Va if you do the first one fast enough.
Ready
so you know what's funny? They fixed that in a patch, like a couple years ago. And then somewhere along the line, it got unfixed because it is definitely back. And it's fucking me up because sometimes I'll go for like a short booster melee just to get like that 50 damage and send them in a predictable arc. And then it doesn't cancel and I fly right through them and I'm like, what the fuck? Gotten into the routine of starting boosters with melee cancel and end with melee. F9. Okay. Yeah, we watched the first little... I swear it's never been fixed. I could swear that there were some patch notes about them fixing it at some point. I might be making that up, but like... You might be right. I might be getting confused. Oh, a little slow there. So, here, this is like, same thing I was saying before. You're just fighting on the point where all the damage is, and like, where you have to turn around really far to track everything, see everything that's going on, versus just coming right up here. Just jump up here, and boom. Or, I really like coming upstairs and left side. You can play the elephant. You can even jump on top of the elephant if you want, but like, I usually come up this way. I know some people prefer here. Probably has more to do with where your team and where the enemy team goes, but like, you have good sightlines from the point. It's hard for them to get to you, and you can just like see everything that's going on and choose what you want to do. Put a right click or two into your Sigma, and then put some damage into this ball. Boom, 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 boom. I don't like D.Va. I prefer all the other off tanks. D.Va is too much brain. Ah, D.Va's so much fun. I'm glad to go back to support soon, though, because I don't think my 2.9 tank is able to keep up in 3.4. Okay, I've heard different people use 6-man in different ways. Do you mean 6-man dive, or do you mean 6-man like it's 6 individual players? Like, everyone is on heroes that can take care of themselves sort of thing. Six-man dive? Okay.
My turn.
Monkey Diva, Somber Tracer, Moira Lucio.
I call that.
Yeah, I've seen 6-man in, or referring to, like, ranked teams where every player can peel for themselves. So, like, you know, Ball, Hog, Reaper, Mei, Tracer, Sombra, those sorts of DPS, Lucio, Mercy, Moira, etc., those sorts of supports. And nobody is playing together. I say that, they're engaging together. It's a timing thing and not a placement thing. And it's just 6 individuals wandering around the map in different places, looking for people out of position to punish, and forcing favorable 1v1s and winning them. And otherwise trying to engage at the same time so the enemy team can't peel for each other. But you're not helping each other out otherwise. You're just sort of, you live and die on your own. A great strat when you have people who know how to play livable heroes well, but you can't get the team to gel when you're just not getting the teamwork to work. Diva DM's entire team whilst Lucio speed engages and Somber Tracer collapse. Stupid fun for every character except Diva. Alright, advance. Sorry, I'm letting myself get distracted today, but I kind of want a chill day today. TBH.
C'est encore bon monde qui a veillé sur moi.
Group up here.
You know, I find, probably because I don't play her all the time, I actually find her reasonably fun. I know that's kind of a hot take, but, like, I think she's an underrated tank. My opinion on her might change if I had to play her all the goddamn time.
Capturing the objective. I'm on fire.
Nice.
Team kill.
I actually like that.
Healing. Healing.
Sorry if I'm not really saying a lot anymore, Advance. I'm looking for, like, new things.
Let me show you how it's done.
But I really think it's mostly... The positioning is the most important thing. And the positioning will help with everything else, but positioning first. And then beyond that, working on your general awareness and target prioritization. And, like, when to heal, when to damage, and just thinking about those things actively will make them better. When you're too beat at the reset, you feel dreadful. I think Orisa gets boring to play because it's kite and spam, kite and spam, kite and spam. And I don't know, holding down M1 the entire game is really fun for 1 or 2 games. But 6 games later, when you're still just holding down M1 while pressing X the whole game, it gets a little... eh. Oh, bots I got coming up next. Nice flank. But then see how, like, you end up in the middle of everything here?
I've got you handled.
So, like, the idea of the flank was good. The timing of the flank was even good. But the positioning of the flank, instead of coming all the way over here, you could have just come right here, done what you did, and then jump up back up onto the point, or come back up over this way, or, you know, wherever you got to go from there. But staying out here in the middle of where the respawns are coming from, where they're going to back up from, etc., is just way more risk than you want to be taking. With odds coming up? Oh, right. I was actually seriously considering doing yours next, although Advance asked if I could look at an Ana VOD as well, so I think I'm going to do the Ana VOD after this. And then, assuming I didn't promise somebody else next and then immediately forget about it, which I have been known to do, please speak up if I did, then yeah, I want to do the high elo one next. That sounds fun.
I am operating at peak performance levels.
You gotta go shortly anyway? Okay, cool. Yeah, honestly, I imagine the Ana stuff is going to be fairly similar. The positioning thing with Ana and Bap, your positioning is going to be fairly similar. The big difference between them is on Ana, you're going to want to look to take short flanks or find angles to land anti-nades, but then don't stay in. And you don't even necessarily have to, like, keep doing damage. You can literally walk up, drop the anti, turn around, and go back and start healing your team, and that'll carry games. But yeah, if you want to get another Bat VOD or Ana VOD or whatever, where you're positioning a little bit further back and trying for those high grounds and etc., there'll probably be a lot more to talk about, but I think that's the biggest thing by far, and that's going to make the biggest difference by far. Yeah, I feel like strength is F my aim. I can't position to save my life. Yeah, so your aim isn't bad. Especially for this elo, like, it's plenty not bad. I would suggest putting in 5 to 10 minutes of aim training a day. Just that. You don't have to do a ton, you don't have to, like, burn yourself out, but just 5 to 10 minutes of dedicated aim training with BAP, practicing that pull down mechanic, practicing tracking while you pull it down, all of that, will make a significant difference while you're working on all this other stuff as well. And it'll kind of help you keep the climb going, because I think your mechanics would have to probably improve to get you out of plat. But it's your positioning that needs to improve to get you out of silver and gold. Cool.